I recently got sent a video from a crusty old chief who has from the East Coast somewhere, I think by his accent and his demeanor and his uniform. And upon further examination, it turned out I'm older and been on the job longer than him. Anyway, he said that in a very emphatic manner, and let me look at his exact quote here. He believed that the number one job of a chief or company officer is to eliminate complacency. Well, I got to disagree with that. And this is not a commentary video. I'm not going to say who it is because it doesn't matter. I think the number one job of a chief officer is to make sure all the people under his or her command go home in the morning. That's, I think, my most important job. But it made me start thinking about complacency. What is complacency? Or how would you describe a complacent person? Is a complacent person lazy or apathetic? I mean, I just had to look up a definition of complacent and complacency just to kind of get a place to start. I mean, we all kind of think we know what it means, but a lot of dictionaries and stuff defined it as uncritically satisfied or unduly unworried. Complacency is a contented self-satisfaction. Synonyms also came up with apathetic, and I thought about that for a while, and I think there's a difference between apathy and complacency, because somebody who's apathetic just doesn't care, and I think I had a definition for that: void of feelings. I think somebody who's complacent doesn't think they have to care. Now, why do people become complacent? Well, one of the books I've been reading, or I think it's a podcast anyway, said that complacency, where did I write that down? Complacency is a function of stability. And it took me a while, and I thought about that for a while, and I said, well, that's a really excellent point. If everything is working well, then you just kind of do what you've been doing. Never had a problem with doing it this way before, so why wouldn't I keep doing it this way, even though there may be risks involved? For example, and another, speaking of risk, talking about identifying risks, what we should always be doing. And you get complacent with identifying new risk, because the enemy of risk identification is also stability. If everything's going fine, then, we must be doing a good job because nothing bad is happening. Which, does that mean we're good, or does that mean we're lucky? Well, that's another great question. We're going to bring that up when we talk more about near misses. But again, complacency is a function of stability and a reaction to the environment. Good example, which I think we may be guilty of here. In my area of responsibility, we have 250 buildings that we define as high rises, using our definition, and it's different everywhere. And all of these high rises have got pre-fire survey documents, and some of them haven't been updated in a long time. Now, the basic things don't change. They're not going to move where the fire department connections are, the fire command center. They're not going to, add elevators or stairwells to it. But we've never really gotten to, or at least I've never gotten to a situation where the information on a pre-fire survey has been wrong to the point where it affected the job. So what is, very stable? These documents seem to be good documents, even though they may be 10 years old, 12 years old. So everything seems to be working out well. What's my motivation to go and update them? I'm not saying me in particular, but, me in general. These seem to work, so we're stable. I don't feel the need to care about updating them. So how do we reduce that? Eliminate that complacency, as this chief said is allegedly our number one job. Well, you've got to get people to be able to appreciate that what they're doing is risky, and they need to be constantly identifying and acknowledging these risks. Well, that's hard to do. That goes back to another thing about changing behavior. You can't change people's behavior by telling them to change their behavior. you have to help change the context of the work environment. And how do you do that? Well, that's difficult and probably a topic for another pod. But the bottom line is that complacency is actually kind of complicated and is not necessarily a conscious act. And it's something that people tend to throw around quite a bit and just say, well, we got to eliminate complacency. And everyone nods their head and said, oh, yeah, of course, without a doubt, without really even be able to understand what generates complacent people or even what the definition of that is. So that's all I got for today. A little cold out. Had to bust out the vintage job shirt. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Just please leave me some comments in the comment section. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again or on the next podcast. Thanks for watching, and please be safe. Thanks.